Hello and welcome to What Lingers, the podcast where we uncover the questions behind people's stories. I am Christian Figueroa.
And I'm Liz Melkor. Together, we're the team behind Storytelling Lisboa, where once a month, 10 storytellers get on stage in front of 200 people and share true personal stories around a theme.
It's always an incredible night, but there is a catch. We always have lingering questions for the storytellers.
In our podcast, What Lingers, we get the answers. In our third season, we jump right in and take you back to that stage. You'll hear the original story told that night.
Then, we sit down with the storyteller for a deeper conversation to explore what lingers for all of us.
Just a quick note, since these recordings are from the actual stage, the audio might be a bit raw.
Okay, so let's get into it.
It was February 25th in the year 2000. Savage Garden had his song, I Knew I Loved You Before I Met You, at the top of the Billboard 100. I asked out my first girlfriend. I was in 9th grade. An 11th grader told me that what I should say is, hey, I'd really like to get to know you in a one-to-one relationship. So that's what I said. She didn't understand what I said, so she just said yes. Her name was Akanksha, which actually means desire. So I got with Akanksha. I desired her, but I didn't actually ever love her. 2 years went by, we were still together. And I met this other really cool girl, Suparna, and her name means beautiful leaf. And she used to play basketball with the boys. We used to listen to Eminem together. It was great. And one day, in December 2002, we were talking on MSN Messenger, and she told me that she loved me. And at this point, we were best friends, so I was kind of taken aback. But what she said to me was, I have loved you since I don't know when. And that was really beautiful. Here I was with my best friend, and I did love her. And so we got together. It was December 2002, and Eminem's Lose Yourself was at the top of the Billboard 100. You know, you got one shot, one opportunity. So that was my high school romance. It went really well. We were madly in love with each other. I used to go over to her house and sneak into her bedroom. And we used to fool around in there. Sometimes her dad would come in and I would climb into the cupboard and hide in there. And her dad one day came in and he said, I'm a fucking detective, what are you doing in here? And she said, I'm studying, and she nonchalantly flips through her notebook. And he says, I know you're not studying, I know what's going on. And I'm there naked in the cupboard, waiting for my death. But then he walks out of the room and nothing happens. Not such a great detective after all. Back when I was 13, before Eminem became famous, I actually started a retro video game website. And I was running this website while I was in high school. And I kept building this website and it kept becoming more and more popular. And there was a forum on the website. So high school came to an end. We all had to pick universities to go to. And Suparna stayed in New Delhi, which is where we were at the time. So I wanted to stay in New Delhi too. And there was this great engineering university there, the Indian Institute of Technology. So I was like, I want to get into IIT. You know, the CEO of Google is from IIT, so I was like, you know what, I really want to go to IIT. Not because the CEO of Google is from IIT, but because my girlfriend and all my friends were in New Delhi. So I started studying 16-hour days to get into this university. Suparna went to university in Delhi. She started studying political science. And she was a very loving and supportive girlfriend, so she joined my forums as well on the internet, my video game forums. And she would talk about gaming, politics, whatever, the people from all over the world. And she was studying political science, so this was great. I was busy studying. We didn't listen to Eminem anymore. We didn't play basketball anymore. And that's when she started talking to Dan on my website. So Dan and Suparna got friendly with each other. But Dan lived in the United States. We were in Delhi, so it was fine. I was like, okay. She would tell me, hey baby, you know Dan and I are just friends, right? You know there's nothing going on between us. You know I love you, right? And I'd say, yeah baby, I know you love me. You know it's all right. That guy's in the United States, who gives a shit, right? Until Suparna's elder sister was graduating from a university in New York, and she says, hey, I'd like to attend my sister's graduation in New York. So I was like, wait a minute, are you and Dan just friends? She says, yeah baby, Dan and I are just friends. So I say, fine. In the meantime, because she was studying political science, she got really into anti-capitalism. So she wouldn't drink Coca-Cola or go to McDonald's anymore. So I was like, this is getting really hard, but I was focusing on my studies. I was like, I need to study hard, I need to get into IIT so I can stay in New Delhi. In the meantime, she goes to New York for her sister's graduation, and she calls me from there, and she says, hey, Dan's gonna come visit me from Colorado. Now, I didn't know anything about American geography. I thought Colorado was the next state, perhaps. I didn't know that it was like a 3-hour flight away. So I didn't know that Dan was really committed to this whole thing. I was like, okay, fine, Dan's your friend. He's gonna come see you, no problem. A few days later, she calls me. She says, hey, I need to talk to you. I say, what's up? And she says, listen, I love Dan.
Oh no.
And I said, don't you love me? And she says, I love you too, but I want to be with Dan. So I say, fuck you. I don't want to talk to you ever again. And don't you ever do to Dan what you did to me. And that was it. So I didn't make it to IIT, obviously, after that. I was absolutely broken. I loved her, and I only know how to love like hard. I know how to love with all my heart. I know how to love. I don't know any other way to love. I don't know how to love halfway, half-assed love. I don't know what that is. So I didn't speak to her for 10 years after that. And 10 years later, she got in touch. I had actually moved to San Francisco, and she had also moved to the United States to be with Dan, obviously the most anti-capitalist country in the world that you can find. And they had been writing a manifesto together called the Dualist Manifesto. You can check this out, it's a political thing. They wrote it together and they published it. Google this shit, it's online. Every time I can't sleep, I start reading it. It's like a charm. But we met up in San Francisco because, I thought it was time to forgive her, 10 years after. So we went for Thai food, and she said she was a vegan, so I thought, oh, dodged a bullet, that's good. And then we hung out a bit. We hugged at the end of the dinner, and she lingered a little bit. So we started talking more on WhatsApp again. I was in a relationship at the time, so I had some boundaries about, not talking too much with her. And then she took a trip to India. She tried to meet up with me a bunch of times. I didn't want to meet her, so I kind of avoided it every time. And then I broke up with my partner. She had a baby with Dan. I got a puppy. Things were going really well for each of us in our respective worlds. And one day during the pandemic, in February 2021, she messaged me and she said, hey, do you have any school pictures of us, like from high school, any old archives? And I said, well, I don't have any in Lisbon, but maybe when I go back to India, I could send you some that I can find, right? So she said, okay, yeah, thanks a lot. And also she told me that she had another child in the meantime with Dan. So that was great, things were working well. I was really happy about that. But anyway, she told me to get these high school pictures. So a few months later, I went to India and I looked through my archives, I looked through everything, and I found some high school pictures in like physical albums. So I scanned them in, and then I was like, oh hey, I have a surprise for you. Here's our high school pictures. I hope you enjoy them. So I sent them all to her on WhatsApp. Single check mark. So I'm like, what happened over here? Now, I don't know like if she died, if she changed her number. Like, I'm not in touch with her through any other kind of situation. So I had no idea about what happened with her. And so when I went to Paris a few months ago, I met up with a friend and I said, "Oh, hey, did Suparna change her number, or is she okay? What happened?" And so he checks his WhatsApp and her number is the same. So she's blocked me 15 years after we broke up. It's one of life's mysteries and I'll never know why. Well, that's my time, guys. Thank you so much.
Ash, thank you so much for being here with us. We know you from the stage, but for people listening at home, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you?
Well, thanks for having me, Liz and Christian. It's very nice to be seeing you again after so long. My name is Ash. I'm based in Lisbon. I've been living here for 10 years. I do comedy shows around here. I run a cafe called Selva Comedy Cafe. That's my life basically in a nutshell right now. I'm mostly focusing on being on stage, doing performances around Europe, and mostly English comedy.
Okay, so actually, because you bring up the comedian part, maybe in some ways that's a good place for us to start because you definitely have a comfort level on stage. And I think probably that's something that's developed over comedy. But I'm wondering, in what ways is telling a personal story about your life different or similar to comedy?
Well, comedy itself is very personal. So I think there's a lot of crossover between telling a story and comedy, but because during comedy, the focus is very much on making people laugh. When I go on stage to tell a story, I really have to tell myself, don't be funny. Like, of course, it's nice to have a few light moments in a long, like a 10-minute story, but you don't want to be like, because you just have this thing, I want to make them laugh. And you don't, that's not what you should do. You want to tell a story like with all of its ups and downs. People are not there to laugh, they're there to connect with something that another person has gone through. So you really want to tone down the comedic side of it. And also sometimes comedy uses a lot of exaggeration, and in storytelling, it's more about being truthful. So you have to really keep it factual, true, and tell it through your lens. I have to tell myself consciously, like, speak a lot slower when you're telling a story. So I think adding those things, it's a bit of a switch, although there's a lot of crossover, and the stage presence, the way you speak and all, it's all the same pretty much, generally speaking.
It's interesting. I'm wondering what was your process to write this story or to tell this story on stage? Because from what you're saying, like comedy for you comes like kind of naturally, you are already inside and now like you have to reverse engineer to make it a story. There were a lot of moments in your story it seemed like you put those little puns or jokes. I'm curious about your process.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular case, I didn't prep per se for the story. I just told it on stage. I didn't revise it or anything. I just went up on stage and I told the story.
Wow.
I did think about some
Unnatural.
points. Like,
You didn't prepare it at all structurally?
just structurally, in the sense, like, it's very easy because in that sense, because it's something that happened to you. The thing with comedy is you have to get so comfortable on stage that it's like talking to your friends. Like, you really have to get so comfortable that you're not thinking about your material, you're not thinking about your bits. So generally speaking, I'm quite comfortable on stage. So I just go up and I'm telling the story like I'm telling it to my friends. So I'm not preparing for it in advance per se. I just had a bit of like, okay, talk about this first, then about this, then about this, and this connects to this, so it makes sense, and end on this. And that was it.
That is such a natural thing because that is not something that I can do. I have to like super structure something because if I practice by myself a story, I'll go on for like 45 minutes. And so I really have to like choose what to say and what not to say. And then there are people like you that are just like, bang. But I guess in some ways it's like you didn't prepare for the story, but you've been preparing for a very long time to be in front of an audience. And that's its own.
Exactly.
Its own thing.
That itself makes you super comfortable on stage. I think part of being on stage is that you can get nervous on stage or feel very like observed. And if you're feeling those things, it'll make you struggle with the, natural ability to tell a story to just a group of friends, right? But if you're comfortable with that, I don't think you'll have that problem so much. I just mainly had to remember to speak a lot slower and pause a lot more and just don't be like a don't make it a joke. Like it's not a, there's funny moments, but it's a serious story. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I really had to remind myself of that.
And also because it's really interesting for me that you chose to tell this story for the theme cringe. And then when we listen to your story, it's like, well, it's not like a natural cringe moment, but I'm wondering because now you're bringing the comedian part. It was cringe for the situation you were in because of the breakup. I'm curious about that.
Well, I mean, honestly, in that story, I felt like, in spite of her like cheating on me, essentially, I still forgave her at the end of it. And then in the end of the whole thing, I end up blocked by her. It's kind of cringy. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. I just couldn't understand why I'm still blocked, by the
Okay,
way.
yeah, because that's like the obvious next question is, did you ever figure that out? Because you told the story already a few
No.
years ago, so maybe there was a resolution.
No, I don't. No, there wasn't. There's no follow-up, no resolution. I don't understand. We are on some common groups together because, okay, we got a high school group, like this. We're there on there together. But I haven't got in touch with her and she hasn't got in touch with me, and I'm still blocked. And I don't know till today, like, what the reason is. I mean, the narcissistic part of me likes to think that I still give her some feelings, so she could.
Okay, Ash, tell yourself that. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the viewpoint I like to take.
But that's it. But that's the thing about ghosting, right? Like any version of ghosting sucks because it leaves this complete vacuum and you can tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself. And if you're not in the right headspace, you're telling yourself that you're like a horrible person. I think the better response is to be like, yeah, I'm so cool. She can't resist it. Whatever.
Exactly. That's what I'm going with. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so the story still stands with the ghosting and the audience can fill in what might really have happened for her.
Yeah.
Can we go maybe to the beginning? You started with these cultural references, and I'm just a couple of years older than you, so you were in high school in like early 2000s, right?
Exactly.
And so you're using these international music references, right? Because you're in high school in India, in New Delhi.
Yes, exactly.
And so it's like Eminem, and what was the first one? Like Smashing Pumpkins or?
No, it was Savage Garden.
Savage Garden. Of like Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
Maybe that was like my high school years. I don't know. But in some ways I was thinking about it and I was like, wow, I think in some ways we were the generation growing up with the internet. And so we was the first generation that globally we were having some of the same cultural references because before it was really more isolated to the country. I'm wondering more like, what is the typical Indian high school, New Delhi high school, or your personal high school experience in ways that are different than what we see in American movies?
Well, I mean, the primary difference would be that, at least at the time that I was in high school, it wasn't cool to have a girlfriend. Like, you were not cool, as in your parents or like your teachers would very strongly disapprove of such behavior. They'd be like, you should focus on your studies.
Oh, wow.
Which would never happen in the US, for example. Like, unless your boyfriend was a drug dealer or something.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like culturally in India, like your parents are supposed to find you like the match, and you shouldn't be like dating people that are not approved by your parents or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, dating is okay nowadays in the big cities pretty much, but the culture of arranged marriages still persists. So, I mean, you could date somebody, and at one point, your parents could find you someone else, and you would have to marry that person. And that does still happen. Like, it has happened to some of my friends. Most of my friends, though, didn't go through that. Like, honestly, almost every one of my friends had dated somebody and then got married to that person. So it wasn't like their parents found somebody for them. But yeah, it's still considered a common practice. You have Indian matchmaking on Netflix, you can watch that. It's all about that stuff. Yeah.
I've seen it.
So,
But
Liz,
yeah,
you love reality shows so much.
I love like the worst of the worst TV is my favorite kind of TV. So has your family wanted an arranged marriage for you? I mean, actually, maybe what's your relationship status at the moment, Ash?
Oh, I'm dating someone right now. My family is not very conservative or traditional.
Okay.
So they've not been on the arranged marriage bandwagon at all. They're like, you do whatever you want.
Okay.
Most of my friends also, it's been pretty much the same.
You're a man and not a girl? It's like just because your parents.
No, but I think my parents would be the same if I had a sister. My mom's more relieved than anything. I said, oh, I don't want you to find me somebody, because my mom was feeling maybe pressured on some level. Because also in Indian culture, it's kind of considered the parents' duty. Like, so, in Western culture, you have this thing that, okay, when your kid's 18, like you've done your job, it's done. Like, send them into the world.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're good people and you're done.
Not my problem anymore.
Yes, exactly. And in Indian culture, I think the last step pretty much is that you need to get them married, and that's kind of when your job is done. So, because of that, Indian parents do feel a lot of pressure to get that sorted and done. And so, a lot of it comes from there as well. And I think my mom was just happy when I said, like, look, I'll do my own thing. You don't have to worry about this. So, yeah, she was released from that.
Good for you, your family as well.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, the difference between high schools in India, I'd imagine, like, I don't know. I grew up watching American movies where the American Pie, like, high school's crazy. Like, what is going on in America, right? Like, is that realistic? I don't know.
Well, I don't know because I went to boarding school.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
We have our own crazy things that go on at boarding school, but we didn't have those crazy house parties. But yeah, I think it does happen. I think those things do happen in American high schools.
I saw a video yesterday on Instagram of this fraternity girl house doing like some dance, and someone was commenting like, I somehow wanted to believe that this is just a movie thing, but it's actual reality. The fraternity thing is just like, it's so wacko.
It's crazy. And the bullying and the cliques and all this stuff in America, yeah.
What I'm imagining now that you told me about the relationship part of the Indian high school is that the cool kid in high school is the smartest kid in high school.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whereas like in American school, it's like the smartest kid is the loser sitting at the corner table studying all the time and people look down on him.
Yeah.
Okay, but so it is the smartest kid.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. So like well, I wouldn't say they're necessarily the coolest, but they're definitely respected. People look up to them and they're like, oh, can you help me with this? Or can you help me with that? Yeah.
And you were 13 and already you were running your own website. So you were kind of a respected kid in your school.
No, it was too early. It was early days in the internet. So like, I think it was 2000. So it was very early. I even started making some money through ads and all on my website, and people just couldn't understand, like, how can you make money online at that, in 2002, people are like, how do you
No,
absolutely.
Now it's so normalized, right? Like people are YouTubers, influencers, whatever. That time it wasn't at all common. My teachers always thought that I was just like looking at porn online or something like that. They were like, what are you doing on the internet for so long? Oh.
But now I actually want to know. So you were making money with advertisements online. Like what were you advertising?
Oh, it was just through. So basically, I had this forum, right? It's a gaming website talking about video games and forums. And then I could sign up for like ad networks and they would place ads for like, video games or other kinds of stuff on there. And people would click on those ads and I would get paid.
How much money were you making?
Not a lot at that time. At that time, I'd say it was more in the order of like $100 or $200 a month. But for a school kid in India, like $200 a month is like, I was wealthy.
Even for me now, it would be like a good amount of money. Barcelona is expensive.
In 2002, $200 a month for a 14 or 13-year-old kid was like, whoa, man, Ash is rich.
Totally.
Okay. You guys, I have to tell this little tiny story about this guy I knew in San Francisco because it just reminds me of these early internet days.
Go.
But he made a page, and I forget the name, but the name was completely ridiculous. And it was like a dating coach master. And he like made up a name. And then the page, he got really good SEO. But we're talking in like 2005. And you could sign up through Match.com because this was like before there were internet apps for dating. And I think the referral fee for signing up for Match.com was like $50 or something really absurd.
Yeah.
So he was making $10,000 a month in 2005 from being like a fake dating coach and just having really good SEO. Yeah, early internet was fun.
That's great. It was great. Like, honestly, Match did try to advertise on my website, but honestly, gamers, they don't really date, so it didn't work at all. Except for my girlfriend who managed to find a date on my own website.
Oh,
like, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh, Superna.
Speaking about that, Superna. You have this, it was your best friend from high school. You started dating, you had this website. She was like being all supportive with your website. And then she met this guy, Dan, who's in the States.
Yes.
And you found out they were talking because I wonder if you were like in the backstage of your website reading everyone's conversation, or she told you, or it's a forum you can see like a chat history?
Yeah, it's a forum, so you can see the threads with all the conversations. They would discuss like politics and stuff because in 2001 we had 9/11, and then people started talking about that stuff, right? Like a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a general forum which is not just for gaming, but like for all kinds of conversations. She would start talking about politics over there. Then this continued in 2003 and 2004 because then there was the Iraq War and Afghanistan. So there was a lot of things happening politically in the world, and they would chat about these things. And then she told me that they were like talking on, I don't know if you guys remember at that time, Gmail used to have like a little chat feature inside it.
G-chat.
G-chat, exactly.
Yeah.
So they used to talk on G-chat with each other.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? I think that means because you're a little bit younger than both of us.
Yeah, it was G-chat.
No, it's because I think when we in Colombia, we like the big thing was Hotmail. So I had a Gmail like when I was already like at uni, very older.
Okay.
I had like Hotmail for years, and MSN, as you mentioned.
Yeah. So we used to use MSN around 2002, but then by 2004 and 5, GChat was the rage everywhere. So Dan and she used to chat on GChat, but she didn't tell me the extent to which they used to talk exactly, because I thought they used to just chat sometimes, but apparently they used to chat every night, all night, like, you know. So
That's a lot.
yeah, because she'd be tired like all day. And I'd be like, why are you so tired? And she'd be like, I didn't sleep very well. Because sometimes she would mention like, oh, last night I was chatting with Dan, and this kind of stuff. And then I kind of put two and two together.
Oh my God. And it's like this reverse psychology she used on you. Like, oh, we are just friends and it's happening.
She's like, oh, you trust me? Do you know I love you? Do you trust me? Like all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, I trust you. Of course, I was also like, Dan's in the US. So like, it's whatever, I'm right here. Right.
I mean, life is so unpredictable. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And also this was like the first generation where this became like more just easy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In just these like early days in forums and stuff. But okay, also it doesn't surprise me in some ways that they talked forever, because you mentioned the manifesto in your story and you said like, oh, it's on the internet. And so I Googled, and I was expecting like a little page with 17 points or something. Like
no, it's a book. Yeah.
No, it's 95 pages. Very dense. It's very well written.
You read it?
No.
Oh my God.
When I thought it was 17 bullet points, I was going to read it. But then when I found it was like 95 pages, I think I read the foreword. I think there's like a foreword and an introduction. Like it's a serious document.
Yeah. And I don't get any credit. What? Why? I introduced you guys to each other. You great Karl Marx's of the 21st century. Like, what the fuck?
They were creating it on your website where people were talking about video games you didn't even know.
Right?
There was political philosophy like being born.
When they study this in 200 years, they're going to be like, man, this originated on a gaming website. What the hell? But that's kind of also the other thing she said. Oh, Dan and I, she'd say, oh, we talked all night, but we were talking about the manifesto. So I was like, okay, it's like a work or like, student thing, whatever. And I was pretty young. So, I mean, I was like 17 myself or 18. I didn't really think that romance is born out of the boring minutiae of political philosophy. So, like, I didn't know that. Never thought that could happen.
And then what about IIT? Because did you really want to go to IIT just because of her? And also, first, let's talk about what IIT is, because I had a friend in San Francisco. I also lived in San Francisco, and he had gone to IIT, and he tried to explain it to me, but he was a very modest guy. But what I understood is that IIT, using my American reference, is like MIT, but on crack. Like it is way harder to get into. I don't even know what the acceptance rate at IIT is. And you have to take a crazy exam.
Acceptance rate is like 0.2% or something. It's really, really low. It's very, very low. And you have to do this crazy exam that's really, really difficult. The exam is supposed to be high school level, but the problems are really difficult, like physics, chemistry, and math. And you just have to like basically study university level stuff before university to get into university, which is kind of circular logic. Like, how would you know? So there's like a whole industry around it. In fact, there's a city in India in the middle of the desert that kids are sent to study for like 2 or 3 years, sometimes 4 years, so that they can crack the exam to get into IIT.
That's insane.
Oh, wow. And does it cost a lot of money?
Yeah, a lot of these families, like, I mean, relative to Western costs, it's not a lot of money, but like for Indian families coming from even rural India and stuff, it's a lot of money. Some people put their life savings into sending their kids to these coaching academies and stuff so that they can crack the IIT entrance exam.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Much pressure.
a
Just,
lot of pressure. It's too much. Yeah. The selection criteria is so tough, and then you're in there. And that's why you have like all this, like, CEO of Google, Microsoft, and so many other massive, multinational companies that are all from IIT because they're just that good.
Yeah. I was going to say that if you graduate from IIT, I mean, you pretty much have your pick, I think, of jobs in these sort of huge tech companies.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this show on Netflix called Kota Factory, which is about this. Kota is that city in the desert where kids go to study. So there's a show on Netflix called Kota Factory, which is about like that is like a factory. It's trying to produce like people who can get into IIT from there. It's like two seasons. It's quite sweet actually. I kind of enjoy watching it. It's nice.
I will also now be watching that. That I don't know. That's actually really interesting to me. So you talk about giving up going to IIT and link it to Superna. And is that why? And then where did you go instead?
So at that time, IIT used to have two entrance exams. So you had the screening exam, and then after a month or two, you had the mains exam, right? So I gave the screening exam, which is also quite selective. I think it has a 1% acceptance rate or something. So you get through that. So you have like 10 million people applying for it or some shit like this. And then you have 20,000 that get through the screening. And then the 20,000 give what's called the mains exam. And I think 5,000 get in after that. So it's like a 1:4 after the first level. And so between the screening and the mains exam is when she told me that she wanted to be with Dan. So I was like, yeah, I wouldn't say it's all down to her. I could have probably still done well, I guess, on some level. But emotionally, I was destroyed. I lost a lot of weight. I wasn't eating well. But I felt like, yeah, I'd been studying so hard just to be in Delhi, just to be close to her and stuff. And then she did, this. And I was just like, yeah, it was tough. And then I got into this other university that's supposed to be quite good. It's called BITS. It's one of the best universities. And I ended up going to their Dubai campus to study, actually. So I was like, you know what? I'm leaving now. I ain't got nothing here. I'm going to go somewhere else. So I ended up going to Dubai for 4 years, electronics engineering. And that was great because that kind of opened up the world for me. Like I was the guy who never wanted to leave India. I was like, I'm happy over here. I love my life here. It's great. And then this whole breakup thing happened and I ended up going to Dubai. And then I ended up, moving to Chile, San Francisco, and then to Portugal. So everything changed like completely from there onwards.
silver linings. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
It's
my
crazy.
God. Wow.
What were you doing in San Francisco?
Yeah. How you ended up there? I wanted to know.
I was in Dubai. I was studying engineering, and then I started working at a startup after that. I worked there for a couple of years, and then I thought, you know what? I'm going to travel and do the whole digital nomad thing. At that time, there were no digital nomads. They were called remote professionals or location independent workers or things like that. So it was 2011. So I started traveling and working on my laptop. And then I met these people in Chile and we built a new startup over there. It was called Gap Jumpers and it was an HR kind of software. And so I was working on this in Chile with them because I was part of the Startup Chile program, which is a startup accelerator run by the Chilean government. But after a while, we realized that our market was in the US. So we moved the company to the States, to San Francisco, and we started marketing to customers over there. So that's what I was doing. It was like some startup stuff. So then I moved to Portugal and I became this comedy cafe guy. So now I'm not in tech anymore. Like it's totally different.
Oh, how do you ended up becoming a comedian from tech?
Tech is fun, but pays well and you make money and all of that. But I think it's not connected to people in that way. You don't connect with people the same way. You don't feel the goodness of your work or what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I was really missing this connection with people. So when I moved here, there was this cafe across the street from me that was my favorite cafe. And I used to go there every day. And then one day they said they were going to shut down. So I said, what? Why are you shutting down? And they said, oh, the owner is not interested in running it anymore. So I said, but is he interested in selling it? And so two of my friends and I got together and we bought the cafe. We had no experience running cafes or like knowing anything about this type of business. So we were like, okay, so what do we do now? We all came from tech-ish background. So we had no idea of how to manage a restaurant or manage baristas or people like this, you know?
Or humans, yeah.
Humans, like, yeah, right? Not like coders. There's different
Yeah.
type of vibe when you're managing coders and, you know, when totally different. The drama level is just completely off the charts. Took me about 4 years to get used to how to manage. So eventually now the cafe is kind of pivoted to being more of a comedy thing. And the comedy thing happened because I started running comedy shows in Lisbon and I was hosting the shows. And little by little, I started, you know, thinking, oh, I should make some jokes too. And I started doing crowd work and I started, now I've done my own hour. I've toured my hour around Europe already, like last year. I'm writing my second hour right now, my solo. And yeah, I'm going to Edinburgh next week to like just do some spots at the Fringe Festival. So yeah, it's fun. Comedy is great.
That's huge. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Amazing.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like developing an hour-long show, props. Developing is one thing. I think I could manage the development part. I think I would choke at the being on stage for an hour part.
Yeah, it's actually really tough to keep your energy up for like an hour and entertain people for an hour by yourself. It's quite demanding, actually. Yeah.
So the cafe that you rented, you still own it. It's in Lisbon.
Yeah, and they can come and watch comedy every Tuesday. It's called Selva Comedy Cafe. And every Tuesday, we have a showcase with the best comedians in Lisbon. Every Saturday, we have a split bill show, two comedians doing longer sets. It's in English,
Okay.
and they'll do like 20 or 30 minutes. So you get to know them a bit better. That's every other Saturday. And now we're starting a comedy course, comedy writing course in September. It's actually the second round of it. One of the comedians, he used to be a sketch and improv coach in the US, in LA, and he's running the course. So we're going to have that every Saturday as well.
Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And talking about the comedy and then connecting thing, it reminded me that you have told another story on our stage, and that story wasn't funny at all.
See, I actually feel offended. You see, this is the thing. This is the comedian thing. When you say, oh, that story wasn't funny at all, I actually feel offended because I want my story to be funny.
Totally.
To be fair, the way she said it, it felt a little bit like
Offensive.
your story was really
Roasty.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit roasty, yeah.
I'm trying to roast. Okay, let me restart. Because actually there probably were some funny moments. There probably were times that I laughed because I think you are one of these naturally funny people. But my memory of it is very emotional and touching. And I think I had tears. So yes, will you explain to people at home what, like, just a summary of what that story was?
I think that story was about my mom being very sick with COVID. And I think it might have been the time when you had hope as the theme or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a very serious story. And it was about my mom and that she had been going through a very serious illness and she was in the hospital. But yeah, and then she recovered, even though it was like she was on the ventilator for like 80 days or something like that. But she recovered. She's actually coming to visit next month. So yeah, she's doing great.
Yay.
So that was the hope. Yeah, that didn't have any funny moments in it. That was
not funny at all.
But actually, I took that and it's part of my first comedy solo hour at the end. And it's quite funny because I talk about this toxic relationship I was having and I kind of tie it in with the sickness that my mom was having. And at the same time, what was going on here, while what was going on there. And it kind of made it into a funny sketch. So the last 10 minutes of my first solo is about that.
I like that sort of comedy that can hit all emotional registers. It vacillates between the two and can find those funny moments in the touching. But I was wondering specifically what it was like for you, because yeah, you connect in some ways with the laughter from the audience, what it was like for you to tell something that people had tears in their eyes.
So I think the reason that was a good moment of connection was because, and so I felt like I could share a very difficult story and I felt that people would empathize and they would connect, and I felt safe enough to tell that story over there, because that's the thing. Like, you don't feel safe to tell something like that if you feel like no one's listening. That would be really like, it would be devastating.
Yeah.
So I feel like you guys have created this fantastic environment where, you know, you can go up and it's safe, it's supportive, people are listening, you feel seen, and it's just wonderful. I had so many people come up to me after that and say like, oh, I'm so glad your mom's better, you know. And usually if you start talking about a family sickness or illness with strangers, they're going to get really weirded out. They're not going to be supportive. They're going to be like, bro, why are you killing the vibe, right? But here you're there in a room full of strangers saying something that's really something difficult that you went through, and people are really supportive and kind. and understanding, and that's just something beautiful. You guys should be really proud of yourselves.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are. We are indeed. I think it's one of our greatest assets, the vulnerability aspect of our storytelling in Lisboa. And this podcast, like where we dive deep into those emotions. And talking about that, I would like to know how it was for you, going back a little bit to the story, like to see Suparna again, like after all these years. She's a mom now. She's married and she's inviting you for dinner and then she's asking you for pictures. Like, how was that like re-encounter?
It was nice, to be honest. It's somebody you loved a lot and care about still. I don't hold it against her now, even that, okay, you know what, whatever, she blocked me. Probably she needs the space. It's fine. Maybe one day in the future we'll reconnect. Or whatever, it's fine, even if we don't. And I think I really cherish the time I had with her. So, meeting her, there was obviously chemistry when you have something with somebody for so many years. And there's this unique connection you can have with people that you knew when you were younger, when you were like this optimistic, hopeful, the world is my oyster, this kind of feeling you have in that moment of your life. And when you meet that person, you literally go back to that, being that person again. And so that connection and that chemistry is it's intense. So meeting her and having, even though I joke in my story, I say, oh, she's a vegan, so I dodged a bullet, that kind of stuff. But it was really great to meet her and connect with her again. But I was in a relationship at the time, so I was like, oh, I can't like be too, and so is she. But yeah. But at the time she was moving away, she had moved to Denver after that. So it wasn't like we were that much in touch with each other.
I think that's the thing though, right? Like those connections endure over a lifetime. And even though it's been years, probably since now she's ghosted you or you guys haven't talked, I'm sure at some point you'll reconnect again. And
yeah, probably.
It is interesting to see over a lifetime connections stay.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes I reconnect with like a high school friend and it's very natural usually because you always have something to talk about it. You might be very, very different people today. So if you try to connect on topics today, you might not even be on the same page. But you can always talk about how much you hated that teacher or how much of a bitch someone else was or, whatever. There's like always something to talk about, right?
Yeah, it's like you had shared experience and that starts to matter, I think, more and more as you get older and older. And also my friends hold memories of my life that I don't have anymore, which is kind of magic. I'm like, oh my God, that happened? I don't remember. But I think that we're coming up to the end and we just have one last question for you, Ash, which is how was it for you to revisit your story today?
It was great, actually. It's like a blast from the past because anyway, the story is like from 20 years ago and then it's 2 years or 3 almost since I told the story. So you kind of forget the details. Like when you're like fresh with the story, it's in 4K and then it becomes HD. And by now in my mind, it's like a, 480p kind of video, all pixelated. And then when I watched it again, it's like again in 4K. Like I'm like, oh shit, yeah. And it brings back other memories, right? It brings back other memories of, the time when Suparna and I were like making out, like hiding in the school in a corner, making out. And the guard started chasing us because he wanted to know who we were. And we ran away and we jumped the fence and we ran away like out of school and stuff like that.
Jeez.
Or like those kinds of crazy things we did as teenagers, that you're just not supposed to be doing, but you did. Always get into trouble, right?
That's it for this episode of What Lingers.
If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It really helps us reach more listeners. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, we'd love for you to share this episode with them.
What Lingers is a podcast from the team behind Storytelling Lisboa and is produced by both Liz and I and edited by Liz.
We're a small project and your support truly motivates us to keep going.
Would also love to hear from you. Feel free to send us a DM or even a voice note with your thoughts, your comments, or questions to our Instagram @WhatLingersPod.
Don't forget to subscribe and follow us so you never miss what lingers next.
Bye!
Bye!